Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijender Singh Tawar, Associate Professor in English, in the series of video lectures which I am preparing. This video lecture is meant for the students of English Literature, paper first of class BA part second. In this video, we will try to understand or try to talk about the analysis, particular explanation of the poem London, composed by William Blake. Before we go to the poem, let us know something about the poet. William Blake, 1757 to 1827, was an English poet, painter, and printmaker. That is, he used designs, wooden designs, silk designs in his life to earn his livelihood. He was one of the most complex and controversial poets of the 18th century England, largely unrecognized during his lifetime. Blake is now considered a seminal figure in the history of both the poetry and visual arts of the Romantic age. Seminal figure means a personality who was great influential and who cast a great influence on the future development. Though during his lifetime he was unknown, he could not win any kind of popularity. His contemporaries thought him to be a mad person because of his certain idiosyncratic views. He is held in high esteem nowadays, and by even the later critics also, for his expressiveness and creativity, for his philosophical and mystical undercurrents within his work. His poems are very simple, but they express deep thoughts and philosophy. He drew his richest inspiration from nature, but he combined with it a mystical temperament which imparted a rapturous quality to that inspiration. He is famous for his two books of poems, namely Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. The first book deals with the beautiful world of infancy, childhood, and happiness, and the second book deals with cruel and harsh world. The poem entitled London is one of the most famous poems of William Blake. It was written during the times of French Revolution and showed his views of the 18th century London, a place where he lived nearly all his life, and indeed the poem was published in the volume of poems entitled Songs of Experience in 1794. The poem has a total of 16 lines, very short poem, which are split into 4 paragraphs of a rhyming AB pattern throughout the poem. Blake discards the common glorifying view of London and replaces it with his idea of truth. Means generally London is glorified. It is said that London is a rich city, everyone should be proud of it, like that, but he does not follow that traditional outlook. He gives out the truth and what he sees, what he experiences. For him, London is nothing more but a city strapped by harsh economic times where royalty and other venues of power have allowed morality and goodness to deteriorate so that suffering and poverty are all that exist. The idea is powerful center of the society. They do not work for the poor, for the morality. The result was there was deterioration in the society. The poem is a devastating and concise political analysis, delivered with passionate anger, revealing the complex connection between patterns of ownership and the ruling ideology. The way all human relations are inescapably bound together within a single destructive society. That we all are bound, we all are forced or compelled to live in a society, and that society has certain laws, rules, which were imposed on human beings or its members, and in this way it is very destructive. Now let us come to the explanation of line by line of the poem. The first stanza, the poet says, as it is a subjective poem, as I told you, the poet does not follow the traditional view of glorifying London, but he describes what he sees. The poet says, I wander through each chartered street. As the meaning is given, chartered streets are the streets of London. Chartered state implies that every street of the city enjoy the freedom guaranteed to it by a royal charter. Now, state does not require, it is a non-living thing. And who is guaranteed to freedom? Actually, it is the human being or the people who live in these states were given rights, freedom by a royal charter, by an act that people will have these and these rights. On the people of London were given certain rights. Near where the chartered Thames does flow. Chartered, again, the same word has been used. Thames is the river on whose bank London is situated. The river is also flowing. What does poet want to say in these two lines? Actually, he wants to say that the river is free. People of the London are free, but actually they have been given certain freedom. It means they have certain freedom, but not the absolute freedom. It means they were bound by certain rules and regulation. Even London, that is the river, is not free. The ruling class have created such kind of system. Even the river is not free to flow naturally. And Martin sees in every face I meet. The poet, as he roams in the streets of London, he sees many people, he meets many people. Marks of one, signs of weakness and mark of woman's sorrow. He finds that people are not happy. On their faces, there are signs of weakness and sorrows. It means people are living there, but they are suffering something which is quite visible, or even a layman can understand that people are not free. All the people are unhappy. That is why the poet has not used even a single sentence or word of happiness. Now the same thing occurs again and again. In every cry of every man, as the poet is wandering in the streets of London, which are situated on the bank of river Thames, he hears the cries of men. In every infant's cry of fear, even the cry of infants, he hears what he hears in every voice, even the voice in every ban prohibition, in every prohibition, the mind forged manacles I hear. Means mind force created by mind, mechanical chains, the sound of chains which men of money and power impose. What the poet wants to say, let us explain. That the poet wanders through the streets of London, which are situated on the bank of River Thames. People are not happy. They are suffering. And they are suffering not because of somebody who is outside, but it is the system which was created by human brain, that is human Mind created society, society created certain rules and regulations, and all the people are bound by these rules and regulations which were created by man himself. It reminds us of the great political thinker Rousseau, who said, "Man is born free, but he finds himself in chain everywhere." Now the third stanza. This is again important stanza. How the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls. Now this is a very important stanza. The chimney sweepers cry. During those days, small children of the age of 4 or 5 years old, the poor, particularly orphan children, they were forced or compelled by the rich people to clean the chimneys of their houses, because adult people cannot enter into the chimney, so they were obliged to take the services of small children. The children were asked to go into the chimney to clean it. While doing that job, some of them met many accidents, injured, died. That continued for many years. It was a blot on the society. Society was not affected by their sorrows. Society continued this process or did not show any kind of sympathy for the chimney sweepers to stop this horrible job. Every blackening church appalls with alarms. Even the church, the religious authority, which was supposed to look for the rights of the poor people, to guide them, also did not show any kind of sympathy with the chimney sweepers and other poor people who were suffering. So it was appalling, it was horrifying. Means neither society nor the religious authority showed any kind of sympathy for the poor suffering people. And the hapless, unlucky soldier side runs in blood down palace walls. This is again very important. A soldier obeys his superior to implement law. While implementing law, if something happens wrong, he is punished. Now the poet says that if he is punished, he is given death punishment or any kind of punishment, or he is beaten mercilessly on the roads, it is his sigh or sorrow for which palace ruling class is responsible. But ruling class does not show any sympathy with the soldier. The idea is the poor and suffering class, whether they are chimney sweeper, whether they are soldiers, they were not taken care of by religious authority or royal authority, ruling class or rich people. They all suffer. They were unsympathetic towards these poor sufferers. Now, in the last stanza, but most true. The midnight streets are here, right? The poet is walking, and he is walking at the time of even midnight. He hears how the youthful harlots curse. Harlots, prostitute. Now see, he notices that young girl from the poor class, she is compelled by her circumstances to go and adopt prostitution. When she enters into this job, she spreads a curse. The poet says, When harlot has come into existence, she will cause certain disease, and those diseases will be taken by the rich people who will enter into very extramarital relationship with them or sexual relationship with them, and those diseases will pass on to their wives. In this way, the whole society will suffer. Blasts, blast means spoil or mar a newborn infant's tear. This is very important line of this poem, that even newly born infant, baby, who should be very happy, his happiness or his future will be spoiled by this prostitution. And blights again mar or spoil, with plagues deface the marriage here is, means the bed of the husband and wife will become a vehicle for carrying the coffin. Why? Because the men who will go outside and have less physical relationship with prostitute, come into contact with her, will be infected with certain disease, and those diseases will pass on to his wife, and the result will be that the bed will should have been a place of love, safety, will turn into a place of vehicle for carrying coffin. In this way, the whole society will suffer. The idea is what the poet wants to say, that the society, ruling class, religious class, they do not show any kind of sympathy for the poor people who suffer in that system. Whether, and this is explained by the poet by giving the example of three suffering class of the society. First is chimney sweeper, second is soldier, and third is harlot.